We don't ever stop and go, what is enough? How much is enough? How much do I need to earn? What is enough? We've been conditioned for so long that success means earning lots of money, having a big house, kids in private schools, owning boats, right? There's this idea that we accumulate stuff as markers of success. You're coming up against all the rules and ideas of what success looks like and re-evaluating and redefining success for yourself. So we've got to figure out what we value. We've got to identify what's important.
Where is that coming from, this desire to be more or have more?
It's coming from the days where more meant survival. So this desire to always be the better person means that we're holding on to stuff we should have let go of years ago, saying yes to things that we shouldn't, and then going, oh, I just need, if I have that app, if I do that program, then I'll be a better person, right? And so before we know it, we're just pushed to the limit.
Welcome everyone to the Reconnect to Self podcast, the show that helps you rediscover what ultimately brings you joy. My name is Scott. I am your host, and as usual, I'm here with my wife, Tracey, who is a counsellor of 15 years in private practice, a qualified breathwork instructor, and certified psychedelic-assisted therapist. How are you, babe?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm well. I think today's show is going to be a good one. I think it's something that people struggle a lot with.
Yeah.
And I know we have had various chats on overwhelm, but I think this chat today is going to bring another piece of the puzzle, and I think it's going to be good. So without further ado, why don't I just read the intro that I've written? Okay, here we go. Today we are joined by Donna McGeorge, a bestselling author who has spent more than 2 decades helping people cut through the noise and focus on what matters. Most of us are feeling the pressure to do more, be more, and fit more in. Donna's work flips that idea on its head. Instead of asking, what else should I do? She asks, what can I stop doing? Her ideas aren't just for CEOs or corporate leaders. They're really about everyday life, our habits, our schedules, our relationships, and the mental load that we carry around. This chat should appeal to anyone who feels overwhelmed, busy, or stretched too thin, which I think is basically all of us. I saw you nodding along to that intro, so I think I did a good job. Please welcome to the show, Donna McGeorge.
Some job. Thank you. I'm nodding along going, yes, I do that. Yes, that sounds like me. I just wanted to make sure, in case you said something that was just wildly untrue, that we dealt with that early in the podcast, so we don't want to set up unrealistic expectations for people. But no, you nailed it. Thanks.
Well, one thing you didn't say was how many books you'd actually written. So tell everyone that.
Yeah, that's mind-blowing.
Right. So the book that we're going to talk about today, or the concepts we're going to talk about today, even though it's my 15th book, the last few, it's kind of been touching on that. I've kind of been talking about Red Brick Thinking, which is the book for a while. But look, I have to tell you, 15 books, the first 7 or 8 were pretty shit. So if anyone's thinking they're going to go and get, I've just heard Donna McGeorge on the podcast, I'm going to get the complete works of Donna McGeorge. Don't bother. Just get the last 7 or so. They're the good ones.
They were your starting books then, weren't they?
Well, they kind of were. And I don't want to, lots of people write books and lots of people self-publish. But when I was starting out writing books, I was very intentional that for every single book I wrote, I wanted to learn an aspect of the publishing world. And so the content wasn't as important as learning about self-publishing and how do I do print on demand, and then how do I create books for conferences. And then I started to get better, and then I caught the eye of publishers. So that's when I started to get a bit serious about it. Then.
What a beautiful goal, though, that you didn't put all that pressure on yourself. It was more about the learning.
Absolutely. And every book has been to learn something new and different.
I love that, because people are constantly looking at the outcome and constantly looking at what, it needs to be in order to be successful. And instead you've just gone, the success is me learning.
That's it. And a lot of people focus on the outcome of producing the book and having it in an airport or, selling 1 million copies. Good luck with that. And no one makes money from books. Just
I didn't realise this until doing
that's not what we're meant to be talking about.
Yeah, it's good for people to know that, though.
Finish the thought. Yeah. But what's happened is, one of the things I wanted to learn from one was, what is it like to have a book at an airport? So I wrote a book quite deliberately that I thought would be a great pick it up at the airport kind of book. So, yeah, so very intentional about what I wanted to learn to get to the point where the last 3 or 4 have been, bestsellers.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
There'd
Be
be gold.
very proud. Well, why don't we start with the title? Why is it called Red Brick Thinking?
Glad you asked. So
I'm sure you are.
I wrote a book a few years back called The One Day Refund. And in that book, I was talking about, creating a 15% buffer of your time. And as part of writing that book, I uncovered this amazing research. And it was all about how when we're presented with problems, our instinct is to add. Mm. And so I started playing around with this little Lego. Oh, can I get it right in focus? There we go. With this little Lego brick, right? See this little bridge? And you can see that it's crooked. One leg's longer than the other. And I would say to people, if you need them, I've got a couple of little bricks here. And how would you make it even?
So for people who are just listening, I should quickly describe. It's basically Lego blocks and in the shape of a bridge. And it's a very basic design, but one leg is longer than the other.
That's it. Very
that's
simple.
The red brick at the bottom.
Yeah. So Correct. It's unbalanced.
Mm-hmm. It's unbalanced. And so when I would say to people, how would you fix it? And I'd say, here's everything. Most people start whacking on bricks like they were auditioning for the block, right? They start or they pull it apart or they were trying to, they got uncomfortable because it was all different colors, right? Yeah. Hardly anyone said, can we just take away the red brick? Yeah. And of course, taking away the red brick, the task was make it even. Yeah. And so when you take away the red brick, it makes it even. Yeah. And so this notion that we have addition bias when it comes to fixing things. And can I tell you, the time of us recording this is kind of mid to late January, which is around the time when people are thinking about New Year's resolutions and making life better. And the first thing they do is start adding things into their shit. I'm going to the gym, I'm going to eat differently, all these new things.
Going to join that class.
Right. And I say, well, before you start doing any of that, is there something you could remove? So just wander around your house with a garbage bin is probably a great way to start. Like there's a lot of stuff you could get rid of that would make life a bit easier.
Well, the funny thing is we, as I was reading your book, we just did that. So over the holidays, because we were walking around our house in December, and it felt heavy.
Full. Yeah, it felt just like we're up to our rafters in stuff we didn't need, kids' toys that were, outgrown, and it just felt like clothes, because obviously kids grow out of clothes. So it just felt like everything was busting at the seams.
Every room was just felt like, oh my God, there's shit everywhere. And because our kids we got 3 kids, 2 of them are teenagers now, and 1 is getting closer to being a teenager. So they're not little kids anymore. We still had a playroom with all toys and stuff. And so anyway, we made a massive effort over the Christmas holidays. I don't know how many days we did this for, but it was probably 3 solid days of just moving stuff around, organizing a Verge collection, putting everything out, and it felt
cathartic.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Good. How did you feel once you did it? So you described it as feeling heavy beforehand and full and cluttered, and now it's light. And congratulations for not going out, because a lot of people do that. They look at their house and they go, oh, we need to declutter this guest room or the garage or something like that. And the first thing they do is go out to IKEA and buy a bunch of things to bring into the space. So they're already adding things into the space and thinking that will make it easier.
True. That's true.
Because all they're doing is looking for a way to store the existing stuff, whereas putting it out on the Verge or getting rid of it, or a trip to the dump, it is so cathartic. Now, because we've just moved house, for those of you who are watching, you can see me waving my arm around, and I've got my arm in a cast because I broke my arm just before Christmas. We didn't have the usual opportunity to get rid of a bunch of stuff that you do. Like usually you wait till you're moving house, or often you wait until there's some kind of crisis that pushes it.
That's right.
Whereas when you make red brick thinking part of your life, you don't have as much. So the joy of that is, as we're unpacking, I think we've only found, I don't know, a dozen items that we're thinking, oh, gee, I wish we hadn't brought that with us, because, as you'd expect, we are constantly thinking about what we don't need. And if your listeners are looking for the clue to this, it's any time you are holding something. This is not Marie Kondo, does it bring me joy? Mm-hmm. This is, am I holding on to this just in case?
Oh, that's me. That's totally me. I used to go fishing. One time I kept a jacket that was a surf jacket from when I was a teenager, and it still fit. And I thought, what if I went fishing? I'd need a jacket like that. Guess what, Donna? I've never been fishing. I don't think I've been fishing for 20 years. But I thought,
the dress-up box.
What happens if I did?
This dress-up box we've got full of random shit. And I'll go, we've got to throw this stuff out. And she's like, yeah, but what if we get invited to like a Mexican themed 40th?
So my parents...
He tells me it's too specific.
Too specific.
Get rid of it.
My parents moved house and my sister and I were helping. And as we're unpacking, we said to my mum, you've got 17 sets of double bed sheets here. I said, you have 2 beds in this house, 1 double and 1 queen. Why do you have 17 sets of sheets? She said, well, you never know when people come. We might need them. I said, you're going to sleep. You've only got 2 beds anyway. So I don't know what you think. You're going to just lay them all over the floor? What's going to happen here? And so I do think there's a throw over of we are reluctant to get rid of stuff when we feel like it still may have some value in it.
Yes.
Right. It's very hard to resist that. So the work I do in my head is the stuff around custodianship, is that I've been the custodian of this for a while. It's time for other people to be the custodian, whether it's the dump is the custodian or whether it's off to St. Vinny's or the op shop or something like that, because now it's time for someone else to have the sheets or whatever.
I got the beautiful experience of, because I hate things going into landfill. So I had no choice. I don't like Facebook Marketplace. In fact, I dislike it because of all the shit that you have to deal with, people not turning up, etc. But there's a certain sense of satisfaction that you get where, well, I don't use this thing anymore, and now I found someone who will use it.
It's glorious, isn't it?
Yeah, and I was happy to give stuff away for free. There was some stuff I sold, but a bunch of stuff I just gave away for free, and it was nice. It's a nice feeling.
Yeah.
Now, and then we have a tendency to do this. We don't really have a linear fashion of interviewing people. So we've jumped I think halfway through your book because we started talking about holding on to stuff. Because my first question was going to be, why are people so overwhelmed? Do you think that's a good place to start? I'm happy to start wherever you want to start.
Yeah, why do I think people are overwhelmed? Because I think there's a few things. For all the stuff you just talked about, you reached a point of overwhelm in your house that became visibly apparent, which is why you then did your shedding and getting rid of stuff. And so it can be physical. It can be what we're hanging on to that we look around. But I do think we get overwhelmed because we're really not very good at saying no to things. And we do it because our instinct is to want to be liked and not want to let people down. And I come from a long history of women who were good girls and wanted to do the right thing. And so when someone says, hey, can you do this for me? That it's so hard to say no. And so what happens is, a bit like you and the getting rid of stuff in the house, we keep saying yes, and all of a sudden we fall over. And then we have to start saying no, and it feels like we're letting people down. And it's sometimes because we're not well practiced at it, it comes off as a bit aggressive and so I think we overwhelm ourselves because we can't say no. And then we are bombarded in our media, whether it's our social media or our TV, with stuff we should buy to be a better person, or stuff we should own or have to be a better person. So this desire to always be the better person means that we're holding on to stuff we should have let go of years ago, saying yes to things that we shouldn't, and then going, I just need, if I have that app, if I do that program, then I'll be a better person, right? And so before we know it, we're just pushed to the limit.
Yes.
So what is the crux issue of that? Where is that coming from, this desire to be more or have more? Like, where there has to be an underlying issue that almost everyone is dealing with, right?
Yeah, well, if I want to go as far back as, cave people theory,
you're going into my direction.
Coming from, right? Yeah. It's coming from the urge, the days where more meant survival. There are more people in our tribe, the more people that can hunt and gather, and the more stuff we have and the more preparation we do for winter, then we're likely to survive. So I do think it has its core right back in that instinctive urge to be surrounded by the things that have us feel safe.
Yeah.
And it's just a misconnection, I guess, to what now makes us feel safe. And so for my mum, it's 17 or 19 or whatever sets of sheets.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's me, 2 extra garden chairs that we really don't need, right? And so, and we feel the familiar, again, this is very instinctive, that what is familiar feels more safe. So we surround ourselves with the familiar things. So that's the first one. The second thing is, I think it's competition. And this, again, is pretty instinctive, to be the biggest, the best, the prettiest, the best looking, the most fit, the whatever. so that I can compete in the world in whatever way I'm competing.
Yeah.
And so we're constantly looking for, I just had a flash there of the old Marlboro man. Remember, you're probably not old enough, but I remember the old cigarette ads that had the Marlboro man, right? And you need to smoke cigarettes so you can be sexy and good looking like Clint Eastwood, who looked a bit like the Marlboro man, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what marketing is pushing at it. So in a modern world, we're constantly being pushed these messages of, in order to be an awesome human on the planet, you need this stuff.
Yes. Do you know what's funny when you say about the stuff? Because I've said to Scott many times that people that are wealthy, they have a lot of stuff. They have the boat, they have the caravan, they have the holiday homes, they have all this stuff. And I was listening to a podcast once and they said, you've got to manage all that stuff. You've got to maintain it all. You've got to, clean it all. You've got to do all these things,
hire people
to do it, to manage it. Yep. And I started thinking, oh my God, that's so true. Because even if you're so wealthy that someone is managing it for you, you're still managing that person. So I was just thinking, It's because everyone wants to have everything themselves compared to just sharing. Like I think when we're living in tribes and, communities and things where you didn't all need a caravan, you didn't all need a boat, you didn't all need a whatever it is.
I love this.
Yeah.
We had the conversation once, it was one of those times when Lotto got up to, I don't know, $80 million or some ridiculous number. And I said to Steve, if we won that, what would you do with all of that? And we talked about all the things like, maybe we'd get a boat. And then we both had this conversation. No, because I don't want anything to do with the management. And then I thought, well, why wouldn't we, if we feel like being on a boat, why wouldn't we just go charter one? Now, I know that sounds a bit privileged to even the cost of chartering one, but we found this company that had these little boats and the whole family all chipped in and away we went and jumped on this boat one summer's day. Yeah. And we felt rich that day.
You created that experience.
Yeah. And then we got off and they cleaned it and took it away and did all the effort around it.
And you saved your time.
Correct. And now we don't have a boat clogging up our driveway or any of that sort of stuff.
Needing to be maintained.
Breaking down. I have some childhood trauma of my dad had a boat and because we emigrated from the UK. And as a teenager, one of his dreams was to have a boat. Now, my parents were divorced by then, so he had his own house with the boat. And so one of the things he would do with us is take us out, me and my brother. The amount of times that thing broke down was it was more stressful than just not going on the boat. We would go there. I remember going to South Perth one time and it was a public holiday and it was so busy. And so you have to queue up to, reverse the boat and take it down. And my dad did this. If he doesn't listen to the podcast, so it's fine. He reversed this thing down and we got it off. So we had to wait for a while, half an hour or whatever. Gets it down, you pull it off to the side. And then I would say 100 or so people watched us trying to get the motor started and it would not start. And then we messed around with this thing for, 20 minutes or whatever. And then he had to do the walk of shame, go back and get the trailer in front of everybody on this public holiday. And the worst part of this story, in the Swan River, we have these jellyfish and you can pick them up. They don't sting you. For whatever reason, as my dad was walking back to get the car, my brother decided to pick up a jellyfish from, I would say, 20 meters away and just lobbed this jellyfish at my dad. And I still remember this vividly. He turned his face because he saw something in the corner of his eye. The jellyfish hit him in the face. And I've never seen my dad look so, and it was just disappointed. He wasn't mad. He was a broken man, and it all stemmed from all of this stuff that we went through with this boat. So yes, and there's another story where
no boats,
just charter one.
It conked out in the middle of the Swan River one time. It was just me and him, and we had to jump out of the boat and swim and drag it to the shore, and then walk it about 5 k's around to where the car was.
So he's not the boat to borrow.
So there's another story in here around. There's boats and then there's boats, right? And so if you kind of got to be rich to get the kind of boat that's not going to break down. No offense to your dad. No one wants a piece of shit boat, right?
No, you nailed it. It was not. Yeah, it was not an expensive boat.
My gosh.
Yeah. So anyway.
Anywho. Yeah. What were we talking about again?
I know. That's unusual for Scott to go on a tangent. That's usually my job.
Yeah, I don't usually give stories that long, but this one in particular, because it's so just imprinted in my brain.
Yep.
But yeah, we could talk more about the more thing, like this desire, because I think it's such an important thing for people comparing themselves to others. I guess that comes into it as well, would you say? Like the keeping up with the Joneses.
The whole keeping up with the Joneses stuff, is very real. I actually think it's a pressure almost a pressure for perfectionism in some regards, right? So and I've got to say, I sometimes fall for it. So we're still in day 5 of moving into our house. And one of my friends has said, can she come down and have a visit and check out the new house? And my instinct was to say no, because it's not perfect. It doesn't look like a display home yet. And I say yet. And so this idea that we're constantly putting on some kind of facade, and that requires, just like a boat, it requires a lot of upkeep to be looking perfect. And we're just now on the back end of and I write about this in my book. I wrote about the amount of money and time, mostly money, we spend on stuff in the Boxing Day sales here in Australia, where as of Boxing Day, we go rushing out and we end up buying stuff because it's cheap.
Yes.
And so we've also got this weird thing we do that says, I can't let that bargain go.
One of my exes,
don't ask me what the psychology of that one is. I don't know.
One of my exes said to me, Tracey, we're going to go broke saving money. Because I kept saying, we're going to save blah, blah, blah. And it was all the savings that I was seeing. We didn't need the stuff that I was saving money on, but...
And I know you're going to probably ask me for a reference, and I don't have one, but I remember reading somewhere that around Valentine's Day is around the time of year where it's one of the busiest days of the year at the dump, where people have done the Boxing Day sales. We've had Christmas where we got a bunch of stuff we probably didn't need. Yeah. And then about 6 weeks later, we're heading off to the dump with loads of stuff. And I kind of feel like that's a romantic date. Like the two of you could do that. Hey, darling, it's date night. Let's
clear out some stuff.
Stuff and pop off to the dump. But that just speaks to me that we accumulate stuff, and then we get to a point where we go, now I can't fit it into my already busting at the seams house. So now something has to give.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where you got to let go.
So in your book, you were talking about, in organisations. I love how you give examples. I'm a stories girl. So when I was reading in your book and you were putting specific stories about different companies and what they were doing, and one was about the matchboxes. Can you talk about?
Oh, it's my favourite. So it's a company called Swan Vesta, which is a British based, but I think subsequently now been bought out by Sweden company that made boxes of matches. And it, like most boxes of matches, it has striking strip on both sides. And so some bright spark, pardon the pun, when they were, on the production line, looked at the box and said, what would happen if we just had one striking strip? And I'm so thrilled that the story, when I've researched the story, there was no, 2-day offsite with the executive team, no massive market research campaign, no testing with their audience. They just removed the strip.
Yeah.
And no one noticed. Wow. No one complained. No customers said anything. And of course, all that happened is they saved themselves time and money in the production of their product. Yeah. And so the reason I tell that story is there's so many things we do in life that if we stopped, no one would notice.
Yeah.
And so it can be as micro as you feeling like you've got to start your day at 9:00 and make sure you do all your emails before 9:30. No one would really know. You put yourself under pressure to do that, or having everything finished by a certain time of day. No one really knows. Now, this is not about not meeting deadlines, but it's like we make these arbitrary rules for ourselves. And this is another contributor to overwhelm, where we go, 5:00 is this magic number and I have to have everything done by 5.
Yeah.
All right, well, what would happen if you didn't?
Do you're so right, because even sometimes, because I'm a therapist and people have my number and my phone is always on silent, because people will message me literally at 3 a.m. They just had a thought or they need to tell me that they need to cancel their appointment before they forget. So I've always got it on silent, but sometimes it'll get to a certain point of the night and I might see that there's sort of 3 messages there. And I used to feel like I had to get back to people, whether it was a Sunday, whether it was a nighttime. And I've really told myself, I'm not on demand and I'm going to get back to people when I'm able to.
When it's
that feeling of that real quick response. And even I've got clients that own cafes and things, and they might have that Google rating or certain things where you're being judged on how long it takes you to get back to people, and they feel like no matter what time of the day or night it is, they have to be responding to that comment or to that inquiry. And it's such a responsive, horrible way to be. And back before we had mobile phones and emails and all the things that keep us connected, you would finish work and you would be done.
That's it.
And now we just feel like it's our responsibility to be responding to people as soon as it's coming in.
And so then we have things like, I sent you an email. So in the olden days, I can remember a time before email was even a thing. at work. That's how old I am. And so then email started, and the etiquette was up to 48 hours for people to reply. Yep. And so I still kind of live by that idea that, if people need it urgently, they'll call me or text me these days.
They'll get hold of you a different way. Yep.
Exactly. But gee, these days, don't people send you an email, and then when you don't respond in 5 minutes, then they send you a follow-up instant message via Teams or Slack or something like that, and then you don't respond to that, and so then they send you a text, and eventually I was on the toilet, right? So don't I get to have a break to go to the loo at some point during the day? So this is another aspect of this overwhelm thing where we're used to instant gratification. And so I have a concern about this with regards to AI, that it's going to make it even worse. So again, I'm old enough to remember standing in a queue going around the corner to see one of the Star Wars films, and you'd be standing in the queue and you'd chat with the people around you, and it was just all part of the experience that you knew it would take a long time to get into the cinema. Whereas now, if people aren't instantly getting what they want, instantly getting the information, and then, the internet goes down for 10 minutes and it makes world news, right? Because people couldn't do the thing. So there's something, in addition to my stuff around removing and looking at what I call strategic subtraction or just subtraction, I also think I'm a big fan of the slow movement generally, right? So always have to be done so fast, so soon. This urgency complex that we have, it's actually false. It's so not true. You don't have to have it done by 5 o'clock. And in fact, the busiest day of the year for most people is the day before they go on vacation. And that again is just an arbitrary day of the year where you've suddenly decided, I need everything done by 5 o'clock today because I'm going on vacation. It's like,
we have a friend who is on vacation right now, and he sent us a message
on the day before he went and said exactly that, how busy he was,
how stressed he was.
And things that, like you're saying about we're not taking things away, and it's a hustle culture. This particular friend, I'm going to call him out. When we first met him, we would always hear, he's a mortgage broker, so we've named him now. He knows who he is. He would always say to me or us, I'm the busiest I've ever been. And we're like, oh my God, that sounds terrible. And then the next year, oh my God, I thought I was busy last year. I'm the busiest I've ever been. So like what you were saying in the book, people just adapt to that new level of hustle, and that becomes their normal. And then they get used to that, and then they add another layer. And we have been watching this for years with our friend and hearing the language change, to, gosh, you thought I was busy here. Now I couldn't be even more busy. And you're like, man, how are you just constantly adapting? See, because in my practice, I figure out how many clients I'd like to see. And then when I reach that number, I refer all my clients to somebody else. I work out how I would like to, how I would like my day to be and how I'd like my week to be. And I don't try and meet up with the demand, because the demand is huge. I just figure out what that demand is, and then I, outsource after that. But he doesn't. He just feels like he's got to take them all on. So he gets busier and busier and does longer days or feels more pressure. And I feel like he's not alone. I feel like there's a lot of people like that. And as much as AI should be coming in to sort of help, with some of these things that we don't need to do ourselves, I feel like people are just more productive. They're just making more stuff happen.
They adapt. So humans are awesomely adaptive, right? To a point. At some point, your mortgage broker mate's probably going to hit a wall. And I hate to say that, but something's going to happen and he'll probably hit a wall.
Yeah.
And mortgage broking is a particularly difficult one, because they also have a story running in their head that they have to be 100% on 100% of the time, because people are buying houses, right? And they're doing settlements and all that sort of stuff.
He gets a lot of pressure from his clients, and he carries that pressure.
Yeah.
Because he feels
and
like
I'm going
he's
to say,
letting them
how
down.
did the clients learn that, right? Yeah. So I often talk, so it's not just mortgage brokers. Lots of people say, I have to be responsive, I have to be responsive. And I'm like, well, how did your clients learn that? How did your team learn that?
Yeah.
How did your family learn that?
Yep.
Because at some point in your life, you allowed or didn't have a boundary about your own time, and it just allowed people that you're the constant one that's always in demand.
I agree.
Right?
I say to people that you train people how you want to be treated. So if I've mentioned this in the podcast before, but we had another friend who he runs a workshop, like a mechanic kind of workshop. And someone contacted him on a Sunday and he got back to them. And I said, oh, why did he get back to them? And he goes, oh, I just wanted to clear it off his plate, or he just wanted to, deal with it straight away. And I said, but now he's trained somebody that they can get a response on a Sunday. And next time you might not respond on a Sunday. He's like, what's going on? Why is it?
Because I firmly believe if people know boundaries, they respect them.
Yeah.
Most of the time that boundaries are disrespected is because people don't know about them.
Yeah.
So part of red brick thinking is, there's a whole bunch we're talking about in here, but one of them is, if I go back to the original story around what is the outcome I'm looking for? So you talked about it with clients that, there's a certain amount of clients I need to have to generate the kind of lifestyle that I want, income that I want, whatever. And once I hit that limit, I've got a decision to make. I'm either going to move my boundary by taking on too many, or I'm going to start referring, right? So that's cool. A lot of us do that with, or don't do that with things as simple as our wardrobe. So our wardrobe gets too full. I've got to stop buying or remove things from it. They just expand, buy another wardrobe, move into the spare bedroom wardrobe or whatever. Yeah. And they're just metaphors for just how we see our life. We don't ever stop and go, what is enough?
Yes.
And
I think exactly right.
Great work to be done by most people to figure out how much is enough? How much do I need to earn? What is enough? We set goals and say, I want to make $1 million just as an arbitrary number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's $1 million. Doesn't everyone want $1 million? Not necessarily. What do I need?
Yeah.
This feels like a good place to introduce you to what our life looks like now. Because as I was reading the book, I'm going, like, you and I guess me in particular is the best real life example I can think of. So I'll just tell you one little story for context. And this was a few years ago. So I've actually now devoted, even though we're recording this on a Friday, I've devoted Fridays to my health. So I'm only working 4 days a week at the moment. And part of that is journaling and stuff. And I went the other day and found my old journal. And I just randomly went to a page and there was this little piece I'd written. And it was about how much I hate letting people down. And it was because I, at the time, was a marketing consultant. I guess I do a lot of things. I don't really have a normal job. But at the time I was running my own marketing consultancy. And so I probably had, 10 clients, however many it was. And most of them small business owners. And when you deal with a small business, like that's life and death for them. And so you have this constant feeling of whatever they need, there's a huge pressure to deliver that. And if I don't deliver it and I don't deliver it fast, then I'm letting them down. And I had this real issue with, I hate that feeling. I was probably not as much anymore, a massive people pleaser. And I would gain what's the right word? Like
confidence or self-value or something like that?
Esteem. Yeah, self-esteem from the compliments of my clients going, oh, you did good with that. Thanks for getting that to me so quickly. Like that would fill up my cup and make me feel good. But then you have the opposite problem. If you're not doing that, then the cup empties and you feel like shit. Anyway, so that's that's what I used to be like. Then that was a number of years ago. Now we've got to a point where, I was a filmmaker, still sort of am when I make another film. I've made a couple of films. I haven't made one for a year. And we were asking ourselves, because Tracey is very big on me cutting back, because we'll get to hustle culture, because I'm really interested in your thoughts on that. And I was a hustler, always been, and you are to an extent. Maybe.
But I do things that I love, and that's why I'm okay to
I probably wasn't doing
Mm.
things that I love.
Sit down.
Tracey was very much on like, you just work less. Like, what are we doing this for? Why are we so fixated on what are we striving for? Mm. We already have enough. We have a nice house. The kids go to school. They have a nice life. Like, when are we going to get to this enough in inverted commas, which is sort of what you were just saying. So long story, not short at all. I now work less and have had to really overcome some mental challenges around not being as productive as I used to be, definitely not earning as much money as I used to. But I'm actually starting to become okay with it, because I look around and go, well, life's actually probably better.
one of the things that I said to Scott he had to change was he was doing work still for a building company, and that's not the direction that our business and lifestyle is kind of going. He was just hanging on to that from the overflow of, that was his first client. He had loyalty to them, but he'd made himself a goal that when that owner was going to retire, he was going to let go of that that role, and he didn't. And so I had to remind him that you'd made that goal. And that was where I was saying, what are you hanging on to that for? That's just for the money side of things, because it's not the kind of work that lights you up. You can do it, you're good at it, but it's not lighting you up, and that's a different kind of energy. And I said, if you can create that gap and that space, that when something more aligned comes along, then you've got the space to be able to do something with that time. Whereas if you don't have any time, now you're just overwhelmed with everything because you're squeezing more things in.
And what I'm also hearing is there's a shift in what we see as success.
Yes.
So we've been conditioned for so long that success means earning lots of money, having a big house, kids in private schools, owning boats, right? There's this idea that we accumulate stuff as markers of success. Yeah. And then when you start to reevaluate your success, you go, well, what is really? And so even though Scott said, you said, I'm not as productive as I used to be. It's like, well, I would argue that you probably are just as productive, but in different endeavors.
I would agree.
And so, right. And so what happens is we go, so someone said to me the other day, oh, I'm back down to just being a bronze frequent flyer. And I went, well, that's awesome. And then what do you mean? And I said, well, that tells me that you're not traveling as much. Yeah. And I know we'd had a conversation about you were away from home too much. And so this idea of being a gold frequent flyer was a mark of success. And want to play us on that a little bit, or any of the airlines do. Look at you, be a gold frequent flyer, where actually, if I'm someone that is working to support my awesome family and create a lifestyle that I can enjoy, then I probably don't want to be a gold frequent flyer. I'm quite happy to be a bronze. Thank you very much. Yep. So that's what makes it tricky, Scott, is you're coming up against all the rules and ideas of what success looks like, and re-evaluating and redefining success for yourself.
Yeah, as you said, once you redefine values, then you can kind of know what you decide is successful. Because his Scott's brother, he's got a goal around creating generational wealth. And so he works a lot, and he tries to invest a lot. And so if we were comparing ourselves to, their dynamic and their goals and their values, we would feel like we're failing. But our goals are very, very different.
Which is a real challenge. Yeah, it's a real challenge to get your head around, because of everything you talked about at the beginning of the show, like looking at other people and, from the outside looking in, they look like they're successful. Like, again, my brother would be a great example, and I'm so happy for him. Like everyone thought I was going to be the rich one growing up. But I've let go of that. That's totally fine. And I'm proud of him for what he's done. And it's taken a little while to get my head around. That's okay. That's what he wants to do. It's actually not what I want to do. My ultimate happiness comes from creating. I just want to create stuff. That's why I make films. That's why we do, why I do the podcast. I love creating stuff.
And my joy would come from connecting people, from communities, from people feeling supported. So that's very, very different than just accumulating stuff or wealth or assets.
You've also just gone a bit spooky woo-woo here for a second. So my friend Reepa Patel, who would be awesome to have on your podcast, by the way.
Excellent.
I went off and did a 3-day meditation retreat with her, and I'm not going to get the words right. She'd be better at having, that's why I suggest you probably have her. But she talked about everyone has their own soul's journey. And the biggest mistake we make is trying to have someone else's journey. And so your brother's journey might be to have multiple generational wealth and have massive investments and all that. Your soul's journey is to create. And when you can separate it's the comparison piece, which is also back to our original conversation about why do we go out and buy stuff? Because it's the keeping up with the Joneses, or suddenly you feel less than because I don't have 3 investment properties in Sydney or wherever, right? And so we tie ourselves in knots. But when you get to that really cool point where you go, that's not my journey. It's just not my journey. And I'm so good with that. It makes a huge difference.
Do you know what popped into my head? I was listening to a podcast once, very unrelated, but they were talking about a Hollywood star or something or other, and they were saying that the wife never wanted to go to the awards nights or go to the parties and go to the whatever. And for everyone that wants to be famous, that would be the part that would be so, desirable is going to these parties with all these people. Because she didn't value that, she didn't put her energy there. And I just thought, good on her that she, again, really knew what she valued. And even though not everyone, but for a lot of people, they would feel like, oh my God, that's crazy. She didn't want to meet Tom Cruise or whoever it might be. For her, didn't value it.
But that's the joy of red bricking, right?
Yeah.
So she just red bricked that aspect, or didn't use that terminology, right? So she's just red bricked that part. But you bang on. So it's like, how do we get better at that? Is we've got to figure out what we value. We've got to identify what's important. For me, the really big important thing is, what is enough?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So even your brother who's building generational wealth, I'd love the question around, well, how will you know when you have enough?
Yes.
Right? Because there's generational wealth that everyone's looked after, and then there's the constant drive to have even more.
Yeah.
That's look like.
I think his answer would be it's never going to be enough, because I won't give numbers, but he just sold a property and made mind-blowing money on that. Yeah. And he's just going to invest it in something else. I actually said, what are you going to do? Like, how's it going to change your life? And well, it's not. I'm going to put that money that I just made into another big investment, and that investment might take another 2 years or whatever. So his life for the next couple of years is not going to change. His thing is, I think, pride. Like he gives him a lot of pride to be able to look after his kids and his kids' kids and his kids' kids' kids, which I totally get.
Yeah. And none of this is judgment around that.
No,
it's a journey through his lifetime.
Yeah.
It's like, it's what he values that he can go through his life.
Like I said, I'm proud of him, and I totally get
it. While it's working, so this is something I always say. Like, I get lots of people that come to me and say, I've got this massive job, or I've got this massive business, and it's nearly killing me, and I'm burning out, and I've been sick, and my kids don't talk to me, and blah, blah. And I'm like, well, then it's not working for you anymore.
Yeah.
And so when something stops working for you, that's when you have to take stock, I guess.
Yep.
And so when something's working for you and you're happily doing it and life is awesome, keep doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the big question is, ask yourself, when you're listening and some of this is resonating, what is enough? Because I redefined, and I guess we redefined what is enough, and enough is a lot less than I probably would have
But
thought.
I kept having to say to Scott as well, and I obviously have to learn this, in different times as well, but I was saying to him, it's just numbers on a screen. Like, if we can pay our bills, anything else that's in the bank is just numbers on a screen. And so we can decide how that impacts us or not. And so, we can live our life and just enjoy what we're doing, or we can freak out that the numbers on the screen is not as high as what that, arbitrary line is in our mind that makes us feel safe.
And I have to remind us, though, that the three of us sitting here looking at each other have privilege.
Right?
Yes.
So we can talk about this from quite a privileged perspective.
Absolutely.
And it is relative, right? So what is enough for us is very different to what is enough for someone else, right? Yeah. And so I always remind myself of that I sit there and go, oh, we just have so enough. Well, what I have would feel like
abundance,
incredible wealth and riches for someone else.
Oh, I think we're the top 1% in the world of wealth.
Yeah.
Like an average Australian person, top 1%. So remind yourself of that, people. I
mean, yes, everything here that we have, we are rich, and, we've got healthcare, we've got beautiful weather, we've got so many things here that we, privileges. One of the things you were putting in your book, or talking about in your book, was around organisations having things just being passed down, and that's just the way that we do things. And I think that across the board is a really important concept, because I think it's in families, I think it's in society, and definitely in organisations, that we just do things the same way. And so when you've got someone coming in with a critical mind and wanting to do things differently, they can be up against a lot of resistance just because we don't do it like that.
It's how we've always done it. There's two really interesting stories around this. The first one is I don't know if it's an old wives' tale, who knows, but it's a story of this family. They'd get together for like Christmas, and they'd have a turkey or a big roast or something like that. And it was tradition that they would lop a third of whatever they're cooking off the bit of meat before they'd stick it in the oven. And someone, I'm assuming it was an in-law, some in-law once had the audacity to say, why are you lopping off the end? And no one really knew. And they kept going back and trying to figure out stories. And it turns out it was because great grandma's oven wasn't big enough, and so she'd always have to lop off the end to fit it in the oven. And so in honor of cooking,
passed down.
It just got passed down. And then it became this kind of ceremonial lopping of the end of the turkey off before it went in the oven thing, right?
Oh, wow.
All because it wouldn't fit in Nana's oven. So that's one example of that.
It's a great example.
Right. And then the other is a very old story that, you know, a logistics company, trucking company, was computerizing. So they brought consultants in. They were turning their paper forms into some kind of online system. And there was this box that said it had the letters AR next to it, then a box, and then the letter 0 or the number 0 in it. And the consultant said, "What's this about?" And they said, no, just every day at the end of the day when we fill in our run sheet, we just put 0 in that box. Why? We don't know. We were just told put 0 in. Anyway, so the consultant goes digging back through all the stuff and literally boxes of paperwork looking back to find a time when there was something other than a 0 in this box. And it was back in 1944.
Oh, geez.
And the AR stood for air raid. And if you're a trucking company in London and you're driving trucks around and there's an air raid, you'd need to know that because it would slow things down and it means things wouldn't get done on time. But post-war, no one ever needed to know. And so again, it was an example of a system that no one ever said why. They just said, no, just do it.
Yeah.
And this happens all the time.
I agree. It does happen all the time.
And that's, you know, if anyone's listening here that works in a corporate context that has some kind of ability to influence, what you want to do is ask the newest person in your organization, give them about 2 to 3 months to settle in, and then have a meeting with them and ask them what they're bewildered about.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Right, because they'll say, I'm bewildered why we put a 0 in the AR box. Yeah. I'm bewildered why we lock the end of the turkey off, right? I'm bewildered why we do this piece of paper and then do another version of that piece of paper. I'm bewildered why this system doesn't talk to this system. And they're your red bricks. And resist the urge
to say it's because it's how we've always done it.
It's the new people in your organization with the fresh eyes that are bewildered about why you do things a certain way.
I love that.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, yeah.
One of my favorite chapters from your book was hustle and hustle culture. We might have touched on this, but I wanted to make sure that we gave it the justice I think it deserves, because I think it's probably, of all the chapters, probably the one that stood out to me the most and the one I think impacts people the most. Can you tell us a bit about it?
You know, it's interesting. So first of all, when I was first thinking about this book and writing about hustle, and I was thinking about hustle culture, I started to think about my mum, who makes little knitted dolls and stuff. And they're beautiful. They're little mice. They're the cutest little things you've ever seen. She's a bit of an artiste around this. And the amount of people that have said to her, you should sell them. You should get yourself a little Etsy store and you should sell them. And of course, this is the notion of turning your hobby into a side hustle, right? And that's what I first started thinking about is, when did we start having to make money from every single minute of every single and every single effort, and that we are unproductive if we're not doing that? Why can't my mum just sit and enjoy knitting little mice and doing their little faces? And so it really got me thinking about how much this hustle culture has permeated just about everything, that you really can't have a hobby anymore. And downtime is nearly criticized, and we feel bad for having downtime. And for me, that was like, that's just got to stop. You know, even if you look at isn't it? Everyone, like, it's very common that people feel indulgent if they have a couple of hours off. Now, I've had to have a fair bit of time off with my arm. It's needed 2 lots of surgery. So in case anyone's watching, I'm waving my broken arm around. I've had 2 lots of surgery. I'm going to have 2 more pieces. What do you call them? Not surgery. Anyway, I've got to go back to hospital for a couple more things. And I've, for January, been only working in the mornings. And so I've been trying to have the afternoons off, and holy cow, it feels indulgent even for me. But I know if I didn't, I'm not going to be able to recover as quickly as I need. So yes, even for someone like me, this notion that, what are you doing this afternoon? Nothing. And even if I told someone, they'd probably go, oh, gee, you're lucky. And back in workplaces, the other thing that struck me was, I'm old enough to remember where you'd have to sneak in if you drop your kids off at school, and you'd have to sneak out or lie if you were going to pick them up. I'm thrilled that that's changed.
Yeah, wow.
But there's still this culture that if someone leaves early, someone will go, oh, you're off to play golf, are you, Scott?
Yeah.
Or, good afternoon if you come in at 9:30, right? So this idea of 100% on 100% of the time, it is just so pervasive. And I
not to mention
challenge your listeners to question it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to mention the person who probably goes and picks their kids up is then doing emails at 10 o'clock at night.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy to justify it, right?
Yeah.
And then they feel like they've got to justify it.
Yeah.
Even though they've probably done, because they know they're picking up their kids, they've probably done more in their day.
Yeah.
Because look, I don't really want to go there, but the gratitude that working parents feel that people allow them to be working parents. And then so they work like Trojans all day, leave early to go and pick up their kids, and then sit on their email after they've shoved food down their gob, as fast as they can.
One of the things in your book you were saying about a school that did a 4-day week. They had the Wednesday, they were doing the no curriculum, and they just came in and did the catch-up work or saw the teachers and things like that. And it was saying how the results of the students went up, everyone was calmer. Can you tell us more about that?
It was a surprising study because I think everyone was expecting it to fail. And now, were there kids that tried to rort the system? You betcha. But kids are always going to do that. It's a bit like AI. Are kids going to cheat using AI? Sure they are. Kids were always looking for ways to cheat. Kids who are going to cheat are going to cheat.
Yep.
Kids who are going to take advantage and wag a day of school are always going to find a way to do that. But for me, the most telling part of this was really the year 11 and 12 students who generally are put under an extraordinary amount of pressure. The volume of work they have to do is, I think, extraordinary.
Yeah.
And unrealistic to some extent. And what they found was that when they had that day, teachers and students were able to just catch their breath, get and stay kind of on top of things rather than feeling like they're constantly playing catch up to get ahead. And so they've kept doing it. It's been a resounding success, and it had, as said by reminding me of the story, I wasn't surprised. But of course, the media was surprised, who watched it very closely, that their results improved as a result. And the interesting thing is, a lot of parents, I've read in the media, a lot of people have said, oh, if we do 4-day work weeks, which I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah, I've seen.
What about our kids at school? And I'm like, well, this school, teachers still turned up on the day. So it's not like kids were just wandering around unsupervised and parents needed to babysit them on their day off. The school was open and it was business as usual. There were just no classes.
Yep.
And so if you think of this like a workplace, it was like, yes, we all come to work. It's just Wednesdays we don't do meetings.
Yeah, I saw that in your book too. I love that.
Right? Because, so that's the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. And Scott, you used to always say about how much time was wasted in your meetings.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
When I was in the corporate world, the biggest shift from going from the corporate world to working for yourself is probably the 2 to 3 hours per day that you get back from sitting in meetings that you don't need to be in.
Right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. In fact, one of my earlier books, one of the good ones,
yep.
one of the good ones is called The 25-Minute Meeting, which immediately challenged people to shift the paradigm of 61 or like 1 hour meetings to 25. And there's a whole bunch of science around why 25 minutes is a good number.
Yeah.
And that's that. I've got a few clients that have taken that on board really well and have had big shifts. But so back to the school story again.
Yep.
So in case anyone's listening saying, oh, these kids were wagging and just goofing off, they weren't. Everyone had to show up to school, including the teachers. They just didn't have classes and they could work from wherever they felt comfortable working. So plenty still went into classrooms and did their homework. Plenty still spent time in libraries, and a whole bunch sat in the quadrangles and under the trees and worked at their pace. It was an incredible experiment that went very well.
Donna, I want to go back a few minutes about your working in the mornings and not the afternoons. How have you dealt with that mentally? Do you feel guilt, or are you going well with it?
Well, I'm kind of forced to, because I have an injury, and if I do push myself too hard, and if my hubby was, he's here, he can hear me, but he'd probably love to stick his head in the side now and say, I told her. But if I push too hard in the mornings, it's not just physically pushing too hard, it's mentally pushing too hard, because what I do know is my body is also trying to heal this injury. And so if I push myself too hard in the mornings, I hit a wall. And so sometimes I have no choice. I hit 1 o'clock and I got to pass out on the couch.
Yeah.
Other
so
days,
you would not feel
no,
guilt
I feel guilty.
that.
No, because I'm asleep. So I don't feel guilty when I'm asleep. But a couple of times when he hasn't forced it, but he said, look, you know, are you able to knock off this afternoon? So when I told him that I've got to do a podcast interview today, but that's the last thing I have on today, he's like, great, then you can rest this afternoon. There's been a couple of times where I've laid there and thought, how am I ever going to hit? Because despite the fact that I've said, you know, don't go for $1 million, I have targets and I want to, because I've got to make enough, right? How am I going to do what I need to do if I don't get up off the couch? So then I realized I am falling for the hustle story.
Yeah.
That's all I tell myself. You are falling for the hustle story, because first of all, it's the 23rd of January. The year's barely started. It's okay to rest. Secondly, I did a whole heap of work and I've got a whole bunch of stuff that I've done that's in train. Thirdly, I've got a team of people who are incredible. It's just this, I think it's partly this hustle thing and ego that says it must be me that does it. There's also probably some identity stuff that says I'm an awesome person when I'm busy doing things.
And we do it for validation. We'll say to someone,
absolutely,
oh my God, today I've cooked this, done this, cleaned the backyard, da-da-da-da-da, and you lift this laundry list of stuff that you've done as a way. Yes.
And you feel very special. Look at me, look at being all special.
And good on me.
So I'm doing the work, and it's the work, Scott, and you two would both know this. Both of you would say, because you continue doing work on yourself nearly your whole life. And so the work I'm doing on myself at the moment is being okay with resting through pretty much the whole of January.
Beautiful.
And
awesome.
And doing a little bit of work in the mornings, where one of my other quite good books was called The First 2 Hours. And I know I'm, with about 80% of the population, I am more mentally alert, happier, productive in the mornings up until about 12.
Yeah, me too.
And so the afternoon is for routine stuff. And so if I am going to do anything, it will be, you know, I don't know, clearing a few emails out or filing something, or if I have to do something, it would be formatting. I don't do a lot of creativity in there, but I'll do a bit of formatting or tidying kind of stuff.
I'm a little bit the same. I this time of year, I have a natural cutoff because my office window faces west, and in Perth on a hot summer's day, from about 2-3 p.m. I literally can't be in that office anymore. So in summer, I have a natural little cutoff. So it sounds like, because I think so many people would resonate with what you were saying, and that I'll finish this thought and then I'm going to say something else. It's your self-talk. So you really have to challenge and have that why. And this relates to me 100% because you hassle me a lot about, I will do a certain number of things that I've earned my rest. So
aren't you a good boy?
He is a good boy, yes.
Right. And can I just say, earned from whom and why? And you know what I mean? Like, even the fact that you say I have to earn my rest. I know you haven't asked for any coaching, but here you go. Your auntie will give you a little bit, right? It's that even that equation in your head could be challenged. Absolutely. Because it's like, who says you have to earn rest?
And that's what Tracey challenges me on. And it's just this, and again, I think it's the hustle culture that I have had my entire life. It's still in there. Like and that's why I'm talking, you know, when people listen to what you were saying, is challenge the thoughts in your mind, challenge the self-talk, this whole thing about where I'm earning my rest. And Tracey, you know, I have therapy on tap. You don't have to earn your rest. Just take your rest.
No, it's an absolute fundamental human, I don't know, not need, it's the wrong word. We've already earned it. Right? Like there's no need to earn anymore. It's a fundamental right is the word I'm looking for.
And when you go back to caveman times, imagine how many hours they were just lazing around.
I think if you want to know about caveman times is watch your pets. Do you have pets?
Yeah. I mean, he's asleep on the desk, right? The table.
Of course you
now.
do. Yes, I'm looking right now. How often do they sleep? And the reason that they sleep is they're preparing for a time when they may have to go. Now they don't anymore. Have to go hunt.
Yes.
Right. And humans were the same. We would rest most of the time, ready to do some flight activity. And after we'd hunted, we would rest we'd feast and rest.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
And, as you're saying about that with the caveman times as well, and, living in tribes and things, we would have also been doing lots of things that create that balance. We're doing storytellings, we're learning and we're sharing and we're connecting. We're doing all these things that we're creating so much of that pressure on us to do the 9 to 5 or, push to get the work done. And then we're fitting in all the other stuff, which of course doesn't get fit in. So that all just goes out the window. So we don't get the connection. We don't get the, conversations with our friends where we're sharing and we're, sharing wisdom with our, community and things.
It's meant to be, the reason we have a Labor Day holiday every year is because we're meant to do 8 hours work, 8 hours rest and 8 hours leisure or pleasure, whatever you want to call it. And that's what our unions fought for, 200 years ago. That's what's meant to be. That's all gone out the window.
Yeah.
Like you say to someone, so when you work 9 to 5, and there'll always be someone that'd say, "Oh, you're dreaming." It's like, well, no, I shouldn't be.
Yes.
Now, I actually think the younger generations are actually better at this than we are. So I'm a Gen X. Yeah. I'm a Gen X, close to being a youngish boomer, but I identify more with X. But I look at my daughter and my nieces and nephews, and if someone said to them, "Can you stay back for a couple of hours?" they go, "Am I going to get paid?"
Yep.
And then, of course, then someone gets on LinkedIn and says, "These younger generations, they expect all this stuff, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, no. Gen X, our organizations took advantage of our goodwill for so long and our ambition and all of that stuff. And now we've got generations that say, "No, I only do, what do you want me to work 2 extra hours?" And then, we're giving you the opportunity to lead this project. Is it going to give me more money? No, it's the,
the opportunity.
The kudos, the opportunity. It's like they say, "No, get stuffed. I'm fine with my little job."
Yeah.
So my daughter even says to me, she has a lazy girl job. And I hate that label because she's not lazy. She just does. She's got a job where she can do this because on weekends she plays in the Geelong Symphony Orchestra. Yeah. She's in orchestra pits for musicals. She's a musician.
Yeah. So she figured out her priorities and what she actually valued.
Totally.
Yeah. Do you know, I've said this before in a podcast, but when I worked for an agency, I was doing counselling there, they wanted me to move up to a supervisor position. And while most people would think, "Oh, great, the title and a bit more money," I was like, "Oh, no, now I'm going into policies. Now I'm going into, managing other staff. I'm doing less of my client work." So I turned it down. I had no interest in that.
And that's actually a big issue in organisations right now where the younger generations are not wanting promotions. They've watched their parents hustle and burn out and all of that, and they're like, "Nah, I don't want that. I just want a job where my daughter uses the phrase where I earn a living. She earns enough to have her living."
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. And you were talking about, with the 4-day work week. And in the book you've got, there's a person that started that movement. Was he from New Zealand?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I wish I could just remember his name right now, but it's
it'll escape us. Yeah.
I wanted to get your, we've talked about the Gen X thing and the younger, I've specifically mentioned the younger people. I'm happy for them. I think they have a lot better, is it protection of themselves or whatever, but a value of themselves. Do you think the whole Gen X thing, because we were raised by baby boomers and they had such a hard time and hard work was such a key thing for them?
It's their biggest value. Work hard, get ahead, retire easy.
But then
get ahead look like this, and this.
They didn't have to deal with the digital world. So whilst they were very hard workers, they got to go home and kind of switch off.
Yeah,
they did.
Whereas their offspring, i.e. us, had all of the values that they had around hard work. Then kind of as we were working our way up in the corporate ladder, had the digital world thrown at us to go, right, well, you're always going to be available.
Yeah, and they didn't have email. Because again, I'm old enough to remember when email was first introduced into workplaces, and it was touted as, this is going to save us so much time. We're not going to have people running around delivering memos every day. It's going to be a massive time saver and everyone's going to love it. Now, here we are 30 or 40 odd years later, and I'm telling you, no one's saying, "God bless email. It just saves me so much time." And so you bang on, Scott, around this idea that work was something that you left. And so even the old adage of you leave work at work and home at home, right? And that boomer kind of idea that you never blended the two. Well, it was very easy because you didn't, right? Whereas the Gen X generation was the one that when we first all got laptops, and we all thought they were the sexiest thing ever. Like, I can remember proudly saying to my mum, they've given me a laptop. They trust me enough. I'm special enough now to have a laptop, not knowing that was going to then tether me to work. And then, of course, this comes along. And now you're lying in bed at 9 o'clock, or if you're going to bed early enough, 9:30. If you're not careful, the ding will happen and you're doing email and work just before you're falling asleep.
Yeah.
I know.
Like, we are just 100% on 100% of the time.
Or the opposite is in the morning straight away. You've not even got out of bed yet, and that person checked their email for work, and straight away they're on. They're not even enjoying their morning. They're not even setting their day up right.
So I'm very particular about when I turn my phone off and when I first look at my phone. And I've got a couple of little rituals. I meditate before I look at my phone. Beautiful. That's kind of a little rule.
Yeah.
Just to set my brain.
So I remember a time when I just started my marketing consultancy, and so was carrying a lot of pressure. The kids were babies. We had a couple of mortgages, and so I've talked about this on another show. I just carried that pressure around with me, and I've talked about the people pleasing of my clients. I remember saying this exact thought to myself with my phone. I would say, because I would check emails, and then about 7 o'clock at night, I would go, right, I'm done. But I said the phrase to myself, my clients own me till 7.
Oh, God.
Wow.
Yeah. And I thought that was a totally normal thing to think.
Look at you being all, responsive and client focused and stuff.
Yeah. But using the word own, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I had that mindset back then.
Gosh, that could take 10 years of therapy to sort that out.
I know. God, I'll take that later.
I've sorted it out now, but it was such the power of words alone, right?
I agree. This is the stories, right? Tracey, you're all over this. The stories we tell ourselves until someone says, are you sure that story is true? Right? And then we go, what do you mean own? So, and this also probably comes back to your desire to be of service and deliver in a timely fashion. But every you well know this is just for anyone else who's listening that says, oh, people own me too. It's around every one of those hours you gave away to your clients where you were taking them away from your kids or your family or your partner.
I would have been so unhappy and so stressed and anxious.
Grumpy and miserable.
Yeah. Horrible.
Oh, I shouldn't be nodding.
Terrible, Scott.
There's a couple more things.
You weren't at all.
Yeah, thank you. A couple more things before we let you go that I wanted to touch on that I thought were that I just felt our audience would really resonate with. And you can choose which one you want to talk about first. One is the badge of honor of being busy. And the other one is the someday concept.
Oh. Okay, well, they're both awesome. So I'll try and do both a bit quicker. Okay. Yeah. So the badge of honor of busy is just that's just how we answer every day. It's like, how is your day, Tracey? Busy, right? And so the first thing I want people to change that word, because I think busy is the new lazy. If you're busy all day, then you're not taking the time to really think, am I doing the right things at the right time? So busy is the new lazy. It's lazy thinking. Now, if you can't get rid of busy, then I'm going to say you need to now decide if it's good busy or bad busy. So, because there's good busy, I got through a pile of stuff and I feel really productive. Usually you'll get to the end of one of those days and feel energized.
Yes.
Right? You've had a great day. Bad busy is, I know I spent all day doing stuff. I just have no idea what I achieved.
Yeah.
If you want to take it one step further, it's how was your day? Answer it productive or unproductive. And now you're starting to shift your thinking. Now, I know productive is relative, but I always say if you know your values, you know what's important, you know what you're trying to get through in a day, then you'll know whether you've been productive or not. So that's kind of how I'd handle that. But this is a throwback to everything we've talked about up until now. It's this idea that, my mum even still says that, how's work? And she wants me to say busy.
Yeah.
Because
and that's what I wanted to get to, because this is this
calendar
thing. Yeah.
And so what I say is I have enough. I've got enough, because she's concerned I'm running my own business. She wants to make sure that I've got plenty of work and all that sort of stuff, right? I'm still fairly certain one day they're afraid I'm going to ask them for a loan or something. I don't know. I've been at this 25 years now and I haven't had to so far, but you never know, right?
My parents are the same. Because I've for the last 12 months, I've answered that question honestly. And I say, not that busy. I got a few things we're doing.
Not enough. Yeah.
And it freaks.
And then they say, have you got plenty of work? Yeah, that freaks them out.
Yeah.
Have you got plenty of work? really? Not good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And like I'll have conversations with our friends and all of our friends, I would say, would you agree, like are busy people with
very busy.
quite successful careers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the odd one out where if people ask me what I did for a job, I don't even know if I'd be able to tell them.
You do loads of things. That's why.
I do lots of things, and I do a lot of things that don't earn money. And I think
you're a Renaissance guy, Scott.
Yeah,
Renaissance guy.
But that freaks them out as well, because when they ask, how's work? They want me to say busy.
But you know what the funny thing is, when we first, I don't know how long ago I said this, but I did some training one day and I was meeting another therapist, and it was a guy, and he was talking about his children, and he said that he and his wife had a shared psychology position in some sort of country town here in Perth, and they both did 2.5 days each, or maybe it was 3 days because they had a crossover day. So they both had 2 days with the baby, then 2 days at work, and then one day where it was kind of, I think they were all in the meetings together. And I was always like, that is beautiful. They're both sharing that role. They're both sharing the responsibility to being the breadwinner and all the rest of it. And they weren't just putting more stuff in there, for the sake of the extra money or the sake of whatever, doing it like everyone else has. And I always wanted Scott to have more of that balance too. So I used to say to him, I would love you one day to be part-time. I'd love it that you aren't doing full-time. And we've got there now. And what that also means to me is, yes, we earn less money, but Scott helps me so much more around the house or with the kids. And I don't feel like it's all on me, to get the school supplies or get the play dates happening or whatever it might be.
House husband.
Yeah, and it's so helpful for me because it's the balance, and it's, again, me figuring out what I valued, and then, we've worked towards that.
So here's the privilege piece again.
Yes.
So my husband, been a house husband for, I'm going to say 17 years.
Wow.
And that was because we had a conversation one day about we were both being half-assed at what we were doing. So we're both being half-assed in our jobs. We're both being half-assed partners. We're being half-assed parents. We're being half-assed around the house.
Yep.
And I said, what would happen if either of us gave our whole ass to something? So I gave my whole ass to being, he gave his whole ass to being at home, because I enjoyed the good hustle, the healthy hustle of going out and winning work and running a business.
Yep.
And so my job was to bring home the bacon. His job was to cook it. And he's now in retirement age.
Yeah.
But that has been gold for us. And so many people look at us and go, oh, you're so lucky, which kind of leads me to the someday discussion where they go, oh, you're so lucky that you did that. It's no, we made a decision that right there and then was the right time for us to do that. We didn't wait. What could we have waited for, and what would someday have looked like with that? Do we wait until we had X on the mortgage paid off or kids left school or whatever? And I think that's what a lot of people do.
Yep.
They say, I won't do this thing until, and then they put in a whole bunch of arbitrary, deadlines in there. Whereas it is possible to do it now. It's just a question of how. Yep. And you're right, you might have to sacrifice a bit on the income. But to be perfectly honest, in our case, I think we probably struggled for maybe a couple of months. But then him running the household freed me up to go hard on the business, and we recouped his salary within 6 months really quickly. So I think there's some short-term hits. It is a realignment. But I do think this someday thing is I do think this is a boomer thing, that I work so that someday I will retire and someday I'll have whatever it is I'm going to have. And there are too many stories about people that literally drive off on the first day with their caravan and then have a heart attack, drop dead, have a stroke or whatever because they worked too hard, right?
I had a client that was a financial planner, and he said that the same thing. Everyone was working for that someday, which was after retirement, so sort of 65 to 75. He said, you got 10 years. You're going to wait for everything to happen in that 10 years. And guess what? You might get there and your health's not great, your energy's not great, maybe you can't be bothered anymore. So you've just delayed it, and then you don't even get to it in the end.
I think Tim Ferriss, in his book, The 4-Hour Work Week, which I've never been able to make happen, he talks about mini retirements and sabbaticals. And I'm a huge fan of that notion that about every 10 years, you take yourself off for a period of time. So my cousin works in the New South Wales school system, and they've got I don't know what the duration is, but you take a pay cut for 4 years, I think, and then the 5th year, you get the whole year off. And I love that idea.
I do too.
And I think that there's nothing stopping anyone on the planet from doing that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think as well, you always are going to spend to what you earn. Yep. So that adjustment of earning that little bit less and then getting that free year off, or, getting paid for that year, is so beautiful, because you would just adjust in those other 4 years.
You would.
But the same way that you might get an extra few $1,000s, you're going to adjust to spending that.
So I'm a huge fan of the mini retirements, if you want to call them that. And look, at the very basic level, the someday stuff is, I've got good china and I only ever use it when I have guests, and it might get used once every 10 years. It's no, use your good china every day. Wear your best clothes every day. Take your fancy handbag out every day.
Donna, can I tell you what I got rid of in my clean out when we did our clean out? So
your fancy china?
No, we kept it.
There was some cutlery that was a wedding gift from my first wedding. I was married for 5 minutes back when I was 23, and that was the gift registry fancy cutlery. But guess what? Because it doesn't go in the dishwasher, I was always like, well, we'll just keep that, and we'll just use that for special occasions. It was pristine in the box, brand new.
We had the same thing, and we got rid of it in one move. And I think then this is the custodian stuff, right? Someone will have walked into the op shop and picked up this, who knows how much it cost in the first place, and picked it up for $50, and if not less, and that would have made their day.
Hopefully, because that's brand spanking new.
Yeah. And, the boomers have a real issue with this. Us Gen Xers are going to inherit so much stuff. And I keep saying to my mum and dad, I love this notion of Swedish death cleansing, which is it's related to, don't wait for your kids to have to clean it out for that someday. Get rid of it now.
I keep telling my parents that now, because they're both hoarders, and I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. And
my mum's not a hoarder so much as she's a collector.
Oh, mine are just straight out hoarders. So paperwork. My dad has old whatevers. One time we were moving house, and he was cleaning out the trailer, and he kept saying, "Nothing wrong with this. Nothing wrong with this." And then he went.
That's where you got it from, obviously.
And it's the programming. And then he was so proud of himself that when he went to the tip, people were grabbing things out of the trailer and taking it off him. And he's like, "See, I told you, nothing wrong with it," which is good. It didn't go into landfill, but that's why he hung on to it for all those years, which is probably, yes.
Donna, you've been very generous with your time.
Thank you.
We've been almost an hour and a half. Before we go, is there anything we haven't covered that you would like to share?
Show the book in the
I'm going to do that.
Show the book.
Host, I know what I'm doing.
Darling, he's all good.
Taking over.
It's not his first rodeo.
Apparently.
Look, the only thing I'll say is one of the mottos I try to live by, and it's prevalent in most of my work, is this idea that we do things today that our future self will thank us for. So what could we clear out now? Or it could be that we clear out things that our kids will thank us for in the future. So what could we stop doing now, remove from our world, clear away, that our future self may not even remember that we did it, but certainly will be thankful that we made that decision today that has a profound impact on our future. So I'm always trying to think about, if we get rid of this, what's our future self going to think about that? And usually our future self goes, "That was awesome. Thanks for that."
Yeah.
Great advice. Very good. The book is called, make sure you can see it on camera, Red Brick Thinking by Donna McGeorge. I assume available in all good bookstores.
And could I just say,
it sure is.
So before we have a podcast guest, I usually peruse the book and just, grab some highlights and things. But I started reading this the other day, and I actually wanted to keep reading. So I haven't finished it, but I actually want to read the whole lot, because I actually couldn't put that down. So before we started recording, I said to Donna, your book was really good. And she said, "Really? You read it?" It was such a funny comment.
Well, can you hope people might like it? And then someone says, "I read your book," and you're like, "Oh, okay, good."
Yeah. But I just wanted to tell you, it actually was really good. And that's why I loved the examples you've put in there as well, that showing people that, it's not always about that addition. In fact, that's what we're trying to, that's the whole point of it, is taking away things, simplifying things, not just carrying on with things that have been passed down, that's of no value, no use, but to really evaluate those things now. So I just think it's such a clever concept. The book is brilliant, beautifully written. So congratulations on,
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Beautiful book.
And where can people find you online? And then also, if you want to mention, you obviously do work with organisations, how can people find out about that?
Okay, so donnamcgeorge.com is the easiest place to get me. It's an unusual last name, so you just Google me, you'll find me everywhere. My platform of choice is LinkedIn. That's where I share most of my cool stuff. I'm a frequent contributor. And yes, I speak at conferences, and if you're having team offsites, that sort of stuff, I'm really good to bring in for either pre or post lunch to get people thinking differently. I run half-day workshops on how to do red brick thinking. I work with teams to look at their strategy, like they've just had a 2-day offsite to build their strategy, and then I come in and go, right, what are we going to stop doing to make that happen, or what can we strip out, or to red brick their work. And I also occasionally work with leaders as a coach.
Perfect. And I actually think you'd be an amazing guest on Have You Been Paying Attention? Like, you have such a good presence and vibe, and the way you interact with us on, Zoom, which can
I would encourage people
awkward.
to watch the video, because Donna has really amazing facial expressions.
You have this way of leaning into the camera.
You're very engaged
when you're making a point, and it adds to the whole visual. So if you're on Spotify, just flick on Spotify. You've got that option to flick to video.
Absolutely. And gosh, if this is how good you are just over Zoom, imagine in person. So anyone wanting to, do workshops and things.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we mentioned this off camera. She has a beautiful pair of bright red glasses that match the whole red brick thinking, which look awesome. All right, we'll let you go and rest, Donna. Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing such a positive energy and also your knowledge to the show.
Yes, we really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Beautiful. She was full of beans.
She was amazing. I was really, really happy with her energy. She was beautiful.
She reminded me, I can't remember the name. I know you like her. She's on Have You Been Paying Attention? Is it Denise?
Oh, yeah.
She sits at the
with
back.
With that energy.
Yeah. So definitely watch some of the video at least.
She's an example of when you bring good energy of how that can sparkle and just kind of expand.
It's contagious.
It's contagious. That's probably the word I was looking for.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully people got something out of that. If you did, and you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe. If you're on Spotify, leave a comment. Like, occasionally people are leaving comments, and that's been nice. Let us know what you got out of it, or connect with us, in particular Tracey, on social media, which is at traceyquayle.therapy, and let us know what you thought of the show, and if you have any ideas for future guests or concepts that you want us to chat about. Now, we have some stuff coming up.
We do.
So the first cab off the rank is going to be a free beach breathwork session, which we are looking at doing on February 8th at Mullaloo Beach. So if you live in Perth, you want to come along to a free event by a qualified breathwork instructor. And it's also, I should say, we're going to make this breathwork, like, I'm going to mix the music, you're going to do all the overlays and stuff. So it'll be 100% ours, because in the past with some of these beach ones we've used other people's breathworks, but we're
delving into
the
creating world.
So if you want to make sure you don't miss out on that, follow us on social media or join the mailing list, which is on the website. You scroll about halfway down the homepage and there's a little form. It's traceyquayle.com. And you can get all, we send emails when we're going to do stuff. And then the next thing we're going to do is on March 7. So that is our second breathwork journey. So how would you describe the difference because they're very different, the beach to what we're going to do on March 7?
On the beach, it's more just sort of, getting you aware of your breath and, taking you into a little bit of a, I wouldn't say a journey, but, you're playing around with different breath configurations and experiencing your body, really relaxing and then kind of ramping up and doing a bit more work. But ultimately you'll be leaving feeling very, very relaxed.
Yeah, I would say chilled out and
it's not as intense.
Refreshed.
Yeah, not as intense. There's still a little bit of work because you're obviously breathing intentionally. But in the breathwork journey, they are more of you're going into an altered state of consciousness, and all sorts of things can happen when you're going into those journeys. They can be quite intense. They can be quite beautiful. But, you're releasing a lot of trauma, whether that's in your body, that's emotionally. Yeah, so they're very different. Both are amazing.
So the beach one is like 15, 20 minutes. The one that we will do in the Swan Valley, the same place that we did the last one, called the Raw Space, which is an amazing
beautiful
venue.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a 90-minute breathwork journey, plus all the bits and stuff you do at the beginning and then
the afterwards,
decompress at the end.
And we always do a debrief as well for that one. Like I'll give people a call or, touch base with them and things, because quite a lot of things can come up in those kind of breathwork journeys. And some do need some unpacking, and the fact that, you have a qualified therapist as part of your experience is obviously helpful for people. They can share what's gone on for them, and if they need more time to process that, obviously we can book appointments, but it does come with a good debrief.
I remember you telling me that a couple of those debriefs were really, what's the right adjective?
Profound.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Obviously, we won't go into details of what people
experienced, but they were really powerful. And funnily enough, I obviously get to see all the big releases and things. And there was one person on that breathwork that didn't have a huge outward release, but yet in that debrief, she had some really significant things come up for her. So it's a really interesting way to process our past experiences.
And so just because I think some people would go, I still don't understand what it is. Like who should do it? I mean, anyone can do it. Mm-hmm. Can you give us some practical examples?
People that don't deal with their emotions, people that swallow their emotions, people that don't cry, people that almost pride themselves on not crying or not feeling anything. That stuff is in your body. That energy is in your body. So this would be a good place to get it out in an intentional way. So anyone that's been storing emotions, don't deal with their emotions, or even just feel really full and need that big release, that would be perfect for you.
Perfect answer. Great. Okay. That's it. Thank you to our guest, Donna. She was amazing. Thank you to you, Tracey.
And thanks, babe. Thanks for hosting.
Pleasure. And we will see you all on the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.